We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Wednesday, August 6th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us is Park Ki-woon.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in. Also, Brooke Prince is with us.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So it's Wednesday, which means we're going to begin with our keyword news, where we look at a story that has been gaining traction over the past 24 hours. And today's keyword is generational reversal. A generational reversal is taking place in Korean companies with a proportion of employees in their 20s now lower than those in their 50s. According to analysis released by corporate research firm Leaders Index on Tuesday, employees under the age of 30 accounted for 19.8% of the workforce last year, down 1.2 percentage points from the previous year. Meanwhile, the proportion of workers aged 50 and above rose by 0.6 percentage points to around 20%. This marks the first time since related data was first collected in 2015 that the share of workers in their 20s has fallen below that of those in their 50s and older. So Kyun, how do you think this generation reversal might affect company culture and communication styles?
It's going to affect in many ways, but I think this just highlights the low birth rate, the shrinking population. It only makes sense that we have more seniors than people who are in their 20s. But we've talked about these generation gaps within the work environment, how the young people find it very difficult, and of course the seniors, to communicate with each other. So I think we need to come up with like a common ground, and it needs to be established for each company so that both of us can actually follow and communicate. For seniors, I think they need to have like a wider understanding of how young people think these days and how they work and how they like to just focus more on work-life balance. And on the other hand, young employers need to really understand that it's the seniors that actually paved the way for all of us. And it actually gave us the opportunity to, I guess, work at different big firms in South Korea. So being a bit more understanding. Yes, I do understand people want to voice their own opinions, but for us to work together collectively, I think this level of communication needs to be brought together and actually discussed even more face-to-face, not like a top-down kind of communication.
Yeah, I think just conversation, helping just people understand each other is really helpful. What are your thoughts on this, Brooke?
Well, as a foreigner observing this trend, I've definitely noticed that fewer young Koreans are going into these traditional office jobs. I went to graduate school here, and many of my classmates opted to go overseas for work, or they pursued freelance work because it's a lot more flexible. And I think flexibility is the key here. That's what a lot of young Koreans are looking for. They don't want the rigid hierarchy. They don't want the longer hours. They want more room for personal growth. And so it's really changed a lot. When I taught English here 10 years ago, my students all wanted to work at a big company. That was like the most common dream. But that dream is changing and society is changing with it. So I think if these companies want to draw in more young people, like Kyun said, they need to really work on communicating, maybe change their mindset a little bit, loosen up a little bit more, and then we can address that generational gap.
So this generation reversal marks a significant turning point in Korea's corporate workforce. Companies and policymakers alike will need to reassess long-term strategies. So whether it's rethinking hiring practices, addressing youth employment challenges, or preparing for an aging workforce, the choices made now will likely impact the country's business landscape. And that concludes our keyword news for this Wednesday. So as we make our way to the middle of the work week, we're reminded that connection can come in many forms, and not all of them are what you might expect. So let's take a look at the screen to learn more. A new type of doll has slowly started to take over social media. These are extremely lifelike dolls known as reborn dolls, manufactured to look and feel just like real human babies. Viral videos show people, mostly women, caring for these dolls as if they were their actual children, taking them out in strollers and even throwing them birthday parties. But this growing trend has sparked a heated debate, some view it as a form of emotional healing, while others worry it may reflect or even contribute to deeper social issues. So today on News Generation, we take a closer look at the world of reborn dolls, the people who care for them, and the controversy surrounding them. So as we just saw in the video, more and more people are finding comfort in some truly unexpected places. These days, companionship isn't just about pets anymore. Some are turning to things like plants, crystals, and even lifelike baby dolls. So we're seeing more people embracing these pets, and they're not just animals, but also pet plants, pet stones, and now pet dolls. So what's behind this growing trend of caring for inanimate objects as if they were alive, Brooke?
Right, well, this is a very interesting topic today. Some people might not be familiar with it, but recently the Wall Street Journal put out an article that put a spotlight on these reborn dolls. So let me walk you through what that means. I don't know if you played with dolls as kids, but these are not your ordinary dolls that you might be imagining. They start that way as the manufactured dolls, but then they go through a process of rebirth. And this process is extremely meticulous and painstaking. It is an art form. They paint the dolls, they add hair, and they fine-tune every single feature down to the eyelashes. And because this is such a detailed process, it's obviously quite expensive. These can run from hundreds of dollars to over $8,000. Thousands of dollars being spent on this hobby. But, you know, I love League of Legends and I've spent a lot of money on that hobby. I think it really just depends on what your passion is, and if you feel like you want to spend a little bit more money on something that you enjoy, I don't judge anyone for that. So this hobby, which can be somewhat expensive, is not just popular in the US, it's also becoming a thing now in places like the UK and Brazil. I wonder if we'll see it pop up here in Korea. But it's not just a hobby for a lot of people. It's actually a real sense of community. They feel like they can emotionally connect with other people that have maybe gone through the same things that they have. And it allows them to experience these aspects of parenting or caregiving in a very safe and controlled environment.
You know what, we might actually see this happen more in Korea, because just the other day my mom was telling me how she was actually looking into these reborn getting one because she's really into these like newborn babies.
Really?
Oh,
so she's
okay.
into that age bracket, just months old babies.
They're so cute.
Because they're so cute, like, and she doesn't want them to get older. And then she was looking at me a bit disappointed that I'm now a fully formed adult.
Right, you want them to stay a baby forever.
Right,
They're
it's
so
like
cute.
it's like there is a
Maybe
demand.
she wants to become a grandmother and wants a grandchild.
Oh,
There's more. It felt a bit personal, but
knows?
maybe that's why I feel. So how are people bringing these lifelike baby dolls, also known as reborn dolls, into their lives, and in what ways are they using them, Hyun?
Right, so reborn doll enthusiasts treat the dolls as if they were real children, placing them in car seats while shopping, taking them to parks in a stroller, and even making milk out of flour and water to feed them. And related videos are going viral, which is not a surprise. A reborn doll channel in the US has over 2 million subscribers, and a video from Brazil showing someone taking a reborn doll to the hospital has reached over 16 million views. And you know, unboxing these silicone reborn babies looks like it's another trend following the trend of unboxing reborn dolls.
That's right.
Right, so this trend has sparked a lot of curiosity, even some heated debate across social media and communities worldwide. So while some people see these lifelike dolls as a source of comfort and healing, others question their impact and the reasons behind this unusual form of companionship. So to get a broader perspective on this, we turned to our viewers on the Arirang News YouTube channel and asked, what do you think about real baby dolls? And here's what they said. When asked about their thoughts on this, 8% of respondents said they wanted one for themselves, nearly half. 48% said they don't personally want one, but can't understand why others might. Meanwhile, 44% said they neither want one nor understand the appeal. So we can see from the polls that with any trend, people have mixed reactions. So what are some of the positive aspects of owning and caring for these lifelike dolls? How can they help people, Brooke?
Well, I have to say I'm glad to see the poll results that so many people said that even though it wasn't for them, it's not a personal hobby that they might enjoy, they understand why other people would. And that's what it's all about, empathy, because that's what people need the most. And these dolls often provide comfort to people that have experienced extreme trauma, grief, or loss. A well-known example of these reborn dolls came up when Britney Spears was pictured with one of them, and she has experienced a miscarriage before. So that image of her with the reborn doll really resonated with a lot of people. And if you think about it, even though it might look a little odd on the surface, it's really not that different from caring for anything. It might not be alive, but it still gives you that sense of routine and care and emotional connection. And when I think about my cat, for example, hugging him is like the best form of medicine I can possibly have. So if hugging these dolls and caring for them, if it brings people comfort and it's not hurting anyone else, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially if they're using these dolls as a way to healthily, manage and process their grief. So I think that we should withhold judgment, and no one should be ridiculed just because they enjoy something that's a little outside the norm.
I like what you said about how it should be ridiculed, because with men, they collect action figures and no one says anything about that. So that's something to think about.
Are you sure about that?
Have you been teased for that?
That's not a bit personal. So on the flip side, Kyun, what are the downsides or concerns associated with these dolls?
Right, there are two sides to every page, and many critics experience a strong sense of unease when looking at a reborn doll due to their hyper-realistic yet lifeless appearance. And this taps into the uncanny valley effect, where something that is almost human provokes discomfort rather than affection. And some viewers may describe the dolls as somewhat creepy or even disturbing. And also some worry that over-involvement with reborn dolls blurs reality as well, especially when individuals treat the dolls like real children or even siblings. And even reborn doll creators, this was very interesting when I read upon this, they have themselves commented that people either love them or hate them, which shows that they understand both sides, but at the same time, it's a little controversial.
So clearly these dolls provoke strong emotional reactions, like Hyun said, from fascination and comfort to discomfort and even fear. And as their popularity grows, so do the questions about what they represent on a deeper psychological level. So to learn more about the emotional and psychological side of this trend, we're going to talk to a therapist. And that conversation will take up right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Yoon-jung, a therapist from Korea. So hi Yoon-jung, thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Hi.
So why do you think so many people choose to care for these lifelike baby dolls? Like, what motivates them?
According to some studies, many people are drawn to lifelike baby dolls, reborn dolls, because they fulfill deep emotional and psychological needs. For some, these dolls serve as a form of grief therapy after experiencing infant loss or miscarriage. Holding and caring for a realistic doll can be a symbolic way to process the absence of a child and maintain a connection to that loss in a tangible form. Others are motivated by an unmet nurturing instinct. The act of caregiving provides routine, emotional grounding, and even a sense of purpose. So in short, the motivation often stems from a need for emotional connection, routine, and healing.
So you already talked a little bit about this, but from your professional perspective, what are some of the mental or psychological benefits that people might experience from this hobby?
Caring for lifelike dolls can offer a wide range of psychological benefits. First one is emotional soothing and attachment. The act of holding, dressing, or feeding the doll can mimic parental caregiving that creates a sense of attachment and safety. And it can also provide grief processing for individuals grieving the loss of a child or a failed pregnancy. Reborn dolls can serve as a transitional object, helping the person externalize and gradually integrate the pain of loss. It provides routine and structure, creating a daily caregiving schedule for the doll provides structure, so which can be psychologically stabilizing, especially for individuals experiencing depression, trauma, or identity disruption. Last, it can provide sensory regulation. Engaging with the doll through touch and visual care may help reduce anxiety and foster mindfulness, particularly for individuals with PTSD, autism, or cognitive decline. There's actually a study for individuals with conditions like dementia, anxiety, or trauma-related disorders. The sensory experience of holding and tending to these dolls can regulate nervous system responses, calm agitation, and offer a soothing alternative to distress. So ultimately, these therapeutic interactions can help people feel emotionally connected, reduce loneliness, and promote a sense of control and caregiving identity.
Well, I did not realize there were so many benefits to that experience. But on the other hand, Eunjung, what potential problems or risks do you see arising from this kind of behavior?
Right. While therapeutic doll care can be very beneficial, there are also potential psychological risks if the behavior becomes excessive or disconnected from reality. The first thing is avoidance of grief or emotional processing. Reborn dolls can be a great tool to treat grief, but in some cases, individuals may use the doll to avoid processing real emotions or trauma. This can result in emotional stagnation, where the individual remains stuck in grief without moving toward healing. Distortion of attachment or reality. If the doll becomes a full substitute for human relationships, it may hinder the development of authentic relationships. There's a risk of confusing symbolic attachment with real interpersonal connection. And I think you guys already mentioned this, but social stigma or misunderstanding. There are positive opinions on reborn dolls, but there are also other opinions that thinking these dolls are a little uncanny. Carrying or treating lifelike dolls as though it was real can attract some misunderstanding or judgment from others. And last one is dependency. Over-reliance on the doll for emotional regulation could potentially reduce the motivation to seek out human support or other healthy coping mechanisms. So I think it's very important to assess the function and context of the behavior when integrated mindfully into someone's healing process. Reborn dolls can be a great tool and be very powerful, but when it's used as a rigid or isolated coping strategy, it may mask deeper needs that remain unmet.
I guess there really are clear pros and cons to this, so thank you for sharing your insight with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we just spoke to a therapist who explained some of the emotional reasons why people are drawn to real baby dolls and the psychological impact they can have, both positive and negative. But beyond personal use, these hyper-realistic dolls have also sparked controversy. There have been real-life incidents that have caused public confusion and even concern. So Brooke, can you share any specific situations where these dolls led to unexpected reactions or broader social debate?
Yes, well, first I'd like to say that was a fantastic interview. I learned so much from her answers. And as we've learned, this is a very polarizing topic. There are many pros and cons. Even within the community itself, there are various little debates and controversies, one of which is the idea of fantasy reborn dolls. So these are dolls that not only look lifelike, but they add not lifelike elements like, horns or fairy wings or even mermaid tails. And so some within the community say that this kind of turns the babies into novelty items and it trivializes what the hobby is supposed to be about. And of course, from the outside looking in, a lot of people find it strange or uncomfortable, like we've talked about. I think it all really comes down to this whole idea of cringe. There's this online page called Reborn Doll Cringe that basically just serves to mock this entire community. And like I said earlier, I don't think it's deserving of ridicule, especially people that are dealing with grief. And we mentioned the idea of, action figures don't get as much heat as these sort of feminine coded hobbies. It happens, but there's a lot of vitriol when it comes to hobbies that women are passionate about. For example, K-pop. A lot of K-pop fans happen to be female, and there's a sort of stigma or stereotype that comes with that. So I think we as a society do need to reflect on our tendency to sort of make fun of women that enjoy something. But that's not to say that this hobby doesn't have its concerns. Like our interviewee mentioned, there are some people that have done things like staging hospital visits with their reborn dolls, and that of course brings up the issue of misuse of public services. So lawmakers are looking into what we need to do in terms of keeping these boundaries safe while also protecting people's freedom to emotionally express themselves how they want to.
So sometimes it's a real fine line between personal expression and public disruption and concerns. So have there been any real life cases where these hyper-realistic baby dolls have led to dangerous or alarming situations? And in response to these incidents, have there been any legal discussions or proposed regulations aimed at addressing this issue, Q?
Yes, over in Brazil, there was an incident where a drunken man assaulted what he thought was a 4-month-old baby, mistaking it for a reborn doll. The perpetrator claimed he believed the parents were using the baby to gain priority in line. And furthermore, reborn doll collectors have also faced death threats, and rap songs mocking the dolls have been created, further intensifying social tensions. And reportedly, answering your second question, around 30 legislative proposals related to reborn dolls have been introduced simultaneously, and these include measures such as banning reborn dolls from public spaces like hospitals, and of course prohibiting their use of public healthcare services.
So I actually heard about what you just talked about, how this man thought this baby was, he claimed that he thought this baby was a reborn doll. That's why he hit the 4-month.
Not a real baby.
So it's a I'm pretty sure it's a 4-month-old baby. So he hit the baby on the head and he was saying, oh, I thought it was a reborn doll.
Still not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4-month-old baby.
And we don't even know if it's like true or not technically. So
and he was drunk, under the influence of alcohol. So.
What a crazy case.
Right. I mean, he's out on bail. Apparently, the baby is doing fine.
Okay.
So for anyone who's concerned.
Wow.
So looking ahead, how should society approach this issue? Should there be more understanding and acceptance, or more critical discussion, even regulation in certain contexts, Brooke?
I mean, I can see both sides, but I think in general we need to have empathy and compassion for everyone. Reborn dolls on their own are not dangerous. They're a source of comfort, but anything that involves very deep emotional attachment, we do need to keep an eye on, because people can end up ostracized for this hobby. They can end up too dependent. It can lead to things like depression and isolation. So it is something that you need to make sure doesn't cross the line. And of course, legislatively, these dolls are not yet very regulated. There are some laws that are prohibiting them from being used in very unethical ways. So that's good, and I think we'll see more of that. And as these dolls become more visible and more viral, we will have more of conversations like we're having today to see how we should address this. But in general, I say if you're not hurting anyone, if you're just using this for your own comfort, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
So to be fair, I feel like it's so easy to be skeptical. I was kind of, skeptical about it at first, but then I was reading up on it, and because I initially thought of the inflatable dolls in Japan. That's popular in Japan as well. But then I realized after reading up on it, like there's someone who actually makes these dolls, and she was saying like half of them are like they consider it as art. Right. So they just collect them, and the other half, like you said, are using to deal with trauma or loss. So what are your thoughts on this, Kim?
I respect and try to understand other people's preferences and source of happiness, but because I haven't seen these reborn dolls in person yet, I can't really say whether I'm for or against this kind of behavior. But as long as this behavior doesn't really affect the public in public areas, as we have seen through many cases from other countries where it may cause kind of discomfort to other people because they can mistake them as for real babies and maybe hit them as well. But then I think it's great to see how it can be some sort of therapy for people who have suffered big losses and just a way of, I think, getting over their grief. But I think, look, AI technology, it's advancing, and now we've moved on to like from pet stones, pet plants, and now like pet reborn dolls. It's good if it helps, but as long as we don't blur reality
Right.
from what is real to what is like not real. I think it should be okay. Yeah.
I think these are all really good points. So from viral videos to psychological debates, reborn dolls have become more than just dolls. They're part of a larger conversation about mental health, companionship, and how we connect with the world around us. So whether it's for comfort, healing, or simply a sense of connection, these dolls clearly mean different things to different people. So as this trend continues to grow, it raises deeper questions about how we cope with loneliness, grief, and our need for emotional connection in a very fast-paced world. And nothing else that can remind us that comfort can come in the most unexpected forms. So we're also conducting a program survey that includes News Generation until August 17th to better meet our viewers' expectations. So please visit us at www.arirang.com or on the Arirang TV mobile app to share your valuable feedback. And by participating, you'll also have a chance to win Bluetooth earbuds and exclusive K-pop merchandise. So this brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation, but News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Big thanks to Q,
Always a pleasure.
to have you, and Brooke
Thank you for having me.
for joining us today. And to all our viewers, thank you so much for watching, and we hope you have the best day. We are News Generation.